The craziest part about Shane Van Gisbergen's Watkins Glen win isn't just that he won again, and somehow the race became less competitive the closer it got to the finish, as some of NASCAR's biggest names looked completely helpless in the final stages. Because for a while, this didn't even look like a race SVG was going to fully control. There were strategy battles, restarts, pit cycles constantly changed the order, and moments where it honestly looked like somebody might finally slow him down on a road course. But then something changed. The pace got crazier, the pressure got higher, and somehow, Shane Van Gisbergen looked even more comfortable. Now fans are asking a serious question. Is NASCAR already running out of answers for SVG? Especially after what happened at Watkins Glen, where he didn't just win the race. He sent a warning to the entire garage. And once you hear how this race unfolded, how SVG fought back through the field, what happened during the key strategy moments, and why this performance felt even scarier than some of his previous wins, you'll understand why NASCAR drivers suddenly have a massive problem on their hands. So stay with us until the very end. And if you enjoy simple, high-drama NASCAR breakdowns covering the biggest stories in the sport, make sure you subscribe to NASCAR Nation News. We're pushing toward 1,000 subscribers, and your support really helps the channel grow. Now let's get into it. Coming into Watkins Glen, everybody already knew Shane Van Gisbergen was dangerous. At this point, nobody in NASCAR sees him as some lucky outsider anymore. That storyline is completely dead, because SVG has now done this too many times. Earlier in the season, he already reminded everybody how dangerous he could be on road courses with another massive win at Austin in the Xfinity Series. Even in races he didn't win, the speed was still obvious. At COTA, drivers like Tyler Reddick had to fight aggressively just to keep him behind. That's what made Watkins Glen feel different before the green flag even dropped. The garage already knew exactly what kind of threat they were dealing with. And still, nobody really had an answer once the race intensified. From the opening laps, SVG's car looked planted, smooth through the bus stop, calm under braking, and incredibly stable through the fast sections where other drivers kept getting loose trying to attack harder. That's what makes him so dangerous right now. While other drivers start overdriving the car trying to find extra time, SVG almost looks like he's saving speed for later. But the race still wasn't easy. Pit strategy kept shuffling the field. Track position became critical, and every restart created another opportunity for chaos. For a while, it honestly looked like drivers like Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and Tyler Reddick might finally pressure him enough to force a mistake. Larson kept attacking deep into the braking zones. Reddick stayed aggressive through the S's trying to match SVG's pace, and Chase Elliott kept hanging around close enough to take advantage if SVG made even one mistake. Early in the race, that pressure actually felt real. But then the race entered its most important phase, and this is where Shane Van Gisbergen completely changed the tone of the afternoon. During the final green flag pit cycle, SVG dropped all the way back to around 22nd position. For a moment, it honestly looked like strategy might finally beat him. The gap was massive. At one stage, he was sitting nearly 29 seconds behind the leaders. And honestly, most drivers would have never recovered from that. But SVG suddenly started carving through the field like the pressure didn't even exist. One by one, SVG started erasing the gap like it wasn't even real. The braking points got later, the exits got cleaner, and every time the camera found him, the car looked perfectly under control. Meanwhile, some of NASCAR's biggest stars looked like they were driving at the absolute limit, just trying to stay close. And once SVG finally got back into clean air again, the pace completely exploded. That's when the race stopped feeling competitive, because the gap started growing ridiculously fast. Not by tenths, by chunks of time. At one point, it honestly looked like he still had more speed left if he needed it. That's the scary part, because Watkins Glen is not an easy place to dominate. This track punishes mistakes instantly. One missed corner can destroy an entire race. One bad braking zone can ruin your tires. Yet, SVG made the final stage look weirdly controlled. And by the checkered flag, he had completely broken the field apart. Shane van Gisbergen didn't just survive late race pressure. He won the race by more than 7 seconds against elite Cup Series competition. That's domination. And the craziest part, this performance somehow felt even more complete than some of his earlier NASCAR wins. Because now he's beating drivers who fully prepared for him, drivers who knew exactly where he was strongest, drivers who understood the threat before the race even started. And they still looked overwhelmed once the pressure increased late in the race. That's a completely different level of dominance. You could actually feel the frustration building during parts of this race. Teams started gambling harder with strategy. Drivers pushed deeper into corners trying to find extra speed. Everybody knew track position against SVG mattered. But somehow nothing changed the outcome. And that's where this story starts getting really interesting for NASCAR moving forward. Because road course races are no longer feeling unpredictable whenever Shane van Gisbergen shows up with speed. Instead, the conversation is starting to become, who can realistically beat him? That's a huge shift, especially in a sport where momentum changes constantly. One week you're fast, the next week you're struggling. But SVG's road course pace keeps showing up again and again. And after Watkins Glen, even more fans are starting to believe this could become a serious long-term problem for the rest of the field. Now here's what made this win even more impressive. The pressure never really disappeared. Late in the race, everybody knew the focus was on him. Every restart mattered. Every mistake would have been magnified instantly. Yet SVG never looked rattled. That calmness is becoming one of the biggest reasons he keeps winning these races. Some drivers get faster when they're emotional. Others get aggressive under pressure. SVG almost looks colder the bigger the moment becomes, and that mentality was obvious at Watkins Glen. Even when the race tightened up at certain points, he kept driving like he already expected the result before the checkered flag even dropped. That confidence can seriously affect other drivers mentally. Because once competitors feel like they have to drive perfectly just to stay close, mistakes start happening. And at Watkins Glen, that pressure was visible. By the final laps, the energy around the race had completely changed. Instead of wondering whether he could hold on, fans were watching another reminder of why road course racing is starting to feel like his territory. And honestly, that's what this felt like more than anything else. Not just a win, not just another trophy. A message to the entire NASCAR garage that Shane van Gisbergen is becoming one of the most dangerous drivers in the sport whenever the series heads to a road course. And now the rest of the field has a massive challenge ahead. Because every time SVG wins another one of these races, the pressure grows even bigger on everyone else to finally answer him. But after Watkins Glen, does anybody actually have that answer right now? That's the terrifying part. Because this wasn't chaos. This wasn't luck. This looked controlled. And if NASCAR drivers were hoping Watkins Glen would finally expose a weakness, they may have just watched the exact opposite happen instead. Shane van Gisbergen didn't just win at Watkins Glen. He reminded the entire NASCAR world that on road courses, he might still be the driver everyone is chasing.